everyone. Welcome to the SpeakIn podcast. I'm Ananya Sareka from SpeakIn, Asia's largest digital learning platform for professional growth through one on one coaching and group learning sessions. In today's episode, we have a distinguished leader from Singapore who will share their personal corporate journey, insights on leadership, and much more. Our guest today is Ms. Low Peck Kem. As the Chief HR Officer and Advisor for the Public Service Division, Prime Minister's Office of Singapore, Ms. Low is responsible for professionalizing HR in the public sector of 16 ministries and more than 50 statutory boards. Prior to her current appointment at the PSC, she was the Senior Director for HR and AMP, OD for a non-for-profit organization, the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, GAIN, based in Geneva, where she was responsible for human resource, organization development, legal, internal audit, and corporate administration for its 15 global offices. She has a unique combination of experience from quality engineer to manufacturing manager to VP, human resources in the private sector. From a regional director of National HR Division in the Singapore Ministry of Manpower in the public sector, to Senior Director ODHR and GAIN, to currently Chief HR Officer for Singapore Public Service Division. This combination has widened her perspectives in the private, public, and NGO sector and enabled her to view leadership from both the Asian and the European perspective. Ms. Low was the first in Asia to be named CIPD Chartered Companion. She was listed as one of the 100 most HR influencers from Southeast Asia and served 2 terms as president of the Singapore Human Resources Institute. She was recently elected to be the president of the Asia Pacific Federation of Human Resource Management. Ms. Low, it's truly an honor to be speaking to you today. Welcome to the speaker.
Pleasure. Thank you.
To start with, can you tell us a bit more about your career journey and some of the key milestones that have shaped your professional path?
Well, I've been in the industry for a long time, and to start off with, I'm trained as an engineer. I was upskilled in HR and people management, and I have practiced as an engineer and as in process as well as in people management. And I would say that where I flourish in is really in trying to architect the work environment and culture of the organization and engineering people's careers. So that is in a nutshell, some of my career journey and key milestones.
Lovely to hear about that. To talk about core principles, what core principles guide your leadership philosophy and how do you inspire your team to achieve excellence?
Well, some of the important principles that I have learned in my career is really to learn, unlearn, relearn, to really keep up with some of the accelerating pace of change that we are seeing around the world. More importantly, it is really do what you're passionate about. And then work is no longer work because it is an extension of what you do that adds meaning to your life. And as I continue to grow and develop myself, I find meaning in coaching others to help them find meaning in their work and their lives. And that has given me a lot of meaning in what I do and also has helped me grow as a leader. And even, sometimes in a senior leadership position, we are still constantly learning and growing. So, quite a few years ago, because I'm quite passionate about wanting to help people succeed in their lives and their careers. So I took on a course in coaching. And I invested 104 hours of my life investing in myself to be trained as a coach. So that has served me well in terms of how I would enhance the way I can do my role as a HR practitioner and helping others in their careers.
That's lovely, ma'am, and that's really very inspiring, truly. Can you share a quote or mantra that inspires you and keeps you motivated?
Well, one of my favorite quotes is by Maya Angelou, I think. And that is, people will not remember what you did or what you said. They will remember how you make them feel. So that is one thing that guides me in what I do, because very often, especially at a leadership position, we tend to, what is the management view and what's the tops down directive and what do we need to communicate? And very often it is not just what you communicate, the substance of what you communicate, but really how you communicate it. And more importantly, whoever you are communicating to, how, how have they felt? So not only in terms of communicating, but especially I think in HR, we actually do a lot of people practices and processes of how you onboard someone, when you hire someone, how you interview someone, even if you have to do a difficult conversation of letting someone go, for example, or sometimes you just have to do some retrenchments because the business calls for it. It is really how have you made them feel when you do some of these people practices, and how can we in HR really make the process as transparent as possible and being very people-centered, so that whoever goes through the process, they actually are able to feel that they have been respected, they have felt that they were being cared for, and they can go on with life with their heads held high. So that's one of the guiding principles and one of my favorite quotes.
Lovely quote to hear. And ma'am, who would you say has been the most influential person in your career, and what valuable lessons did you learn from them?
I think one of the most influential person in my life or in my career is actually one of the general managers that I worked for. And it's very important for us to always realize that the world is bigger than us, and whatever you do, you really need to have that bigger picture in mind. And I think that is something which we all only have 24 hours a day. And how do you want to prioritize your life and your time, and where do you want to give your time to? It's all finite, but as we live longer, and as we become healthier, and we have a longer lifespan. So if you read Linda Gretton's book on the 100-Year Life by Linda Gretton and Andrew Scott, you will find that traditionally we used to think of life as a 3-stage. The first 20 years you kind of front load with education and all that. Next 40 years you kind of work, and then the last 20 years you retire, and then before you die off at 80 or something like that. Today, your children, our grandchildren are going to live to celebrate their 100th birthday, if not more. So that traditional view of work 40 years to support 40 years of not working is not going to be sustainable. So we do have to look at a longer work life, but we do want to make sure that productive longevity. How do we pace ourselves so that we have good quality life, and not to show up everything until after you retire, and then you say, oh, I have all this money, but if you don't have your health, you don't have your mental wellness, you cannot enjoy your retirement at the tail end of your life.
Truly, ma'am, it's been the concept of productive longevity is so important, and it's really inspiring.
It is.
Thank you for sharing this. That was actually really interesting, and definitely we'll tell our viewers, and they've got to know about an amazing book, so probably a new read for them as well.
Yes.
Um, Lastly, ma'am, can you discuss a significant challenge that you faced in your career, and how did you overcome it?
Especially, I think in the HR line of work, we are dealing with humans. I used to be an engineer, so I used to deal with machines as I was a production manager, right? So machines are quite easy to deal with. You tweak it this way, tweak it that way, and that's how the machines are expected to behave. Humans are quite different, and they're all quite unique, mainly because we deal with people, and people have feelings, and we get our jobs done, not just by I tell you to jump, you ask how high, but really how do we build trust and build relationships, and sometimes, very often, especially when we in HR are dealing with a workforce and dealing with people, it has to be supporting the business at which we are in. So very often we as HR are kind of being sandwiched in between. Are you management or are you employee? Okay, well, we are all employees. We all have our bosses and our managers and all that, but we all work for a larger purpose or a larger cause. So very often we have to make difficult people decisions. And I think one of the most significant challenges that we have to make is sometimes because of the business situations, we have to maybe, retrench some of our workers or some of our employees and colleagues. And which is why, your colleagues or your workplace is not your family, because you cannot retrench your son or your husband, right? You can probably divorce your husband or your wife, but you cannot say, I retrench my son because, you are not pulling your weight and all that. So in a work environment, while we have built trust and built strong relationships, I think one of the challenges that we face is how do you go about managing the business and still have that level of respect and the kind of work environment where people really look forward to coming to work because you have that kind of work culture of having progressive people practices. And even when you have to make difficult people decisions or challenging people decisions, or sometimes even having difficult career conversations, you will find that your employees feel that, yeah, it is being fair, it's a fair comment, and it is not because of my fault, it is because this is what the situation is. And as long as people feel that they have been fairly treated and they have been cared for, and you have helped them to kind of move on, then I think some of these challenges will actually help all of us grow and be stronger. So in my private sector life, I have had to retrench people because the business was not doing well, and how you select or how you identify people to retrench, and especially for HR, the process at which you identify, the process at which you conduct the exercise, and every exercise is different. So I had to retrench from production operators to managers to general managers and all that, and my indicator of whether I have done a decent job in the retrenchment exercise is when people are able to leave with their heads held up high. And I've got engineers and employees who actually come back to me and tell me that, Peck Kem, I understand that this is not because of my poor performance. This is because the business is not doing well. And I understand the criteria at which I've been selected. But when the business picks up, and if you are hiring my kind of skills, please call me, because I like to come back to this organization because of the progressive people practices. So you can actually change a business challenge or a people challenge into something that is actually an employer brand for you. So we do hold that power.
Amazing. Definitely. Really very inspiring to hear that as well. And I would really like to thank you for your time and for sharing your valuable insights and experiences with us today. It was a pleasure having you on the Speak In podcast. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Stay connected with us for more inspiring conversations with Asia's top leaders. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on our social media platforms. Thank you.